this is the article in the New York Times, Breaking China Apart. This was the title of an op-ed in the New York Times by Leslie Gelb, the chairman of the Council of Foreign Relations, Breaking China Apart. And it said that the US might encourage separatism against China, and US may take extraordinary measures to kindling separatism to stop China if China does not fall in line, quote unquote. 13th of November 1991. So I think that kind of vision, that kind of mindset of the so-called sole superpower is in operation now when it comes to Xinjiang. I call it the 3Ds approach. First, you demonize a country. This happened with Iraq, this happened with Afghanistan, with Syria. It's the same pattern, or Russia now, under Putin. Demonize, then you damage its reputation through constant propaganda, and then you destabilize. So, demonize, damage, and destabilize, and then destabilize. And what are the steps they have taken in this new Cold War against China? There are specific steps. And I will list 5 of those measures. Separately, you can connect the dots. First week of October 2020, the United States lifts the ban on ETIM, which they had certified in 2002, along with the United Nations, as a separatist and terrorist organization. East Turkestan Islamic Movement. And the UN still retains that label of terrorism, but the US has lifted it. Similar to the way they lifted the ban on the MKO, Mujahideen-e-Khalq organization, against Iran, when they wanted to use the MKO in Iraq against Iran, under the Bush administration. And after that, they had declared it axis of evil in 2002. The pattern is similar, so they lifted the ban. Secondly, the step taken 26th of October 2020, 1 week before the American presidential elections, Pompeo, the Secretary of State of the US, and Esper, the Secretary of Defense of the US, fly into Delhi to sign the BECA, Basic Exchange Cooperation Agreement, BECA, with India, which is a strategic agreement to rope in India before the American presidential elections. So it means there's a consensus between the Republicans and the Democrats. And it follows 2 other agreements. 2018, it was CONCASA on communication and data exchange, intelligence exchange, and in 2016 it was LEMOA, Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Association. And at the same time in 2018, the Americans renamed the Asia Pacific Command as the Indo-Pacific Command, when Admiral Harris, the Commander-in-Chief, said, from Hollywood to Bollywood we will have cooperation. And then they announced in NATO the 2030 study. NATO 2030 document listed in November 2021 says China is one of the major threats and challenges for NATO. As far as my understanding of geography goes, China is never part. By which stretch of the imagination is China part of the North Atlantic? So China has now been put on the NATO agenda as a threat, along with Russia. This was done, so part of the new Cold War. Then they established the AUKUS, AUKUS, Australia, UK, United States. They have the Quad, which includes Asian, but the AUKUS is more of a white man's club. Australia, UK and US. It doesn't include Japan and India, who are Asian countries. So that was also very clearly because they want to now bring it together as part of the pivot of the Cold War in Asia Pacific. And the 5th aspect, I've listed all the steps they have taken for this new Cold War, was a recent passage of what is called the Strategic Competition Act by the US Congress. This is China specific, 270 pages. And in that there is a $300 billion annual, and I quote the name of the fund, called Countering China Influence Fund. This is the name. So it's officially now clear that it is to counter and combat China, propaganda, demonization, and you will see a lot of the money flowing in here also to different parts of the world. Although there are 145 countries in BRI and 32 international organizations, but they will continue with that. So this is what this whole situation is all about, the context. I'm just stating the facts which are there. And I think Sabha Aslam had a point when he talked